Hello, my name is Demir Duskant, and here's my first question. What books were your favorite when you were a kid?
Oh, great question. I had a couple that I really loved. One was A Wrinkle in Time. I don't know if you guys have ever read that. It's so good. And then there's another one that I just love it. I don't know if a lot of people know about it now, but it was called Harriet the Spy. I think they made a couple of movies about it, but it was about a kid, girl who was like in New York City who wants to be a writer, so I really love that. But honestly, I almost only read kids' books now because I think books for a kid, middle grade, YA, younger, are like the best books around. So there's a lot of books out, obviously Harry Potter, I love Harry Potter, and there's a book called Holes, which is a great book, and they also actually did a pretty good movie about that. So there's a lot of really, you guys are lucky, there's a lot of great books for you now, I think, even much more than when I was a kid.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Brooke. I'm in 5th grade, and here's my first question. Why did you become an author?
Hi, Brooke, that's a great question. So I became an author because I love to read. That was like my big thing. So when I was a kid, we didn't have a lot of money growing up. We didn't get nice clothes or toys, but my parents always made sure we had a lot of books. So they would take us to this bookstore, used bookstore in New York, and it looked like something straight out of Diagon Alley, like you open the door and the bell would tinkle, and it was this really tiny little place with squeaky wood floors, and the bookshelves went up to the ceiling, and there was like a ladder so you could climb and get the book you wanted. The books were 10 cents a piece. So my parents would let us get as many books as we wanted. And there was always like one book that was so good I'd be reading it past my bedtime, with a flashlight under the covers, always. And what I realized, like, I would be so sad when those books ended because I was in that world of the book and I loved it and I loved the characters and I felt like sometimes it felt more real than the people that I knew. And then the book was over. So what I realized as a young, like pretty young kid is that if I wrote my own stories, I could stay in whatever world I wanted to stay in and meet whatever characters I wanted to meet, and I was in total control of it. So I think really a big part of me wanting to be a writer was that I loved reading.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Paul. I'm in 5th grade, and here's my first question. When you make seeds, do they always turn into a story?
Paul, that is a great question. No, not always. No, they don't always. But they do a lot of times, I have to say. So I kind of know early on when I'm creating these, when I'm growing the seeds, if I start my what ifs and they're kind of not really going anywhere or they're not exciting me, I know that seed is not going to grow for me. But like I get, often what happens is the more I ask, the more I sort of dig in and ask my what ifs, I get more and more excited and I think more and more ideas. And sometimes that seed is very different from the actual thing that grows out of it. So that's another thing, is when your imagination starts working with those story seeds, you can really end up with something very, very different, and that's fine. That's totally fine. Yeah, great question.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Emma, and my question is, does your child have a favorite book of yours?
Oh, thanks for asking, Emma. Yes, he does. And I'll show you what it is. This is probably the most fun book that I wrote. So this is called Otis to That. There's 2 of them in the series. And the reason why this is so much fun to write was when my son was 7, the only books he would read were the Captain Underpants books. That was it. That was all. Because he wanted something funny. So I said, okay, I'm going to write a book that's just funny. It's going to make him laugh. And so I wrote this book. It's about like a Lego genius, because he was like really into Legos, who moves into an apartment building and has all these crazy adventures. And it's funny. So when I was writing it, for my son's reading loud at night, I would read him the chapter that I wrote. And I'd wait, because when I got to the funny parts, he didn't laugh, I would take them right out. He was my very first editor in that way. And if he did laugh, I'd keep him in. And then because there were all these like weird Lego inventions in here, like crazy hot dog catapults, all kinds of stuff. I had him build them because he really knew how to execute Legos, and I made sure that the inventions could actually work if kids wanted to build. I think most, not all of them work, but a lot of them do. So this one was super fun, and that one is his favorite book. Yeah, great question.
Who is your favorite main character out of all of the books that you've written?
That's a good question. Well, this one, I have a lot. I don't know if you can see it, but there's the boy in the middle of the cover with blonde hair. His name is Otto. And this book is called Kneebone Boy. And the reason I loved Otto was because he was a very mysterious character to me. He didn't talk. He always wore this scarf around his head and refused to talk. And I actually didn't quite know, as I was writing it, I knew there was a reason he wasn't talking, and there was a reason he wore that scarf. But I actually didn't know what it was until I was pretty close to the end of this book, which is something I do not plot out all my stories ahead of time. A lot of some writers like to do that. For me, if I know what's going to happen ahead of time, I'm going to be too bored to write the story. So I don't do that. I know maybe a little bit ahead of time, like I might know what's going to happen in the next chapter, but I don't know far out. What's more important to me is that I develop my characters so well that I can kind of figure out what they would do in any situation, and that drives my story forward more than plotting something up. So Otto, again, I knew that the reason, this mystery of why he will not speak, had something to do with this situation going on in the story, in this family. But again, I didn't know, so I didn't know to the end that he was a character that just interested me and mystified me, and I have a lot of. You're welcome.
Usually don't ask questions.
Hi, my name is Julia, and here's my question. If you made an adventure, fantasy book, what would it be about?
Well, it's funny you asked, Julia, because the book that I was telling you about that I just finished writing is a fantasy. It's the first straight-up fantasy magic book that I've written. A lot of my books have that a little bit elevated. This was straight up. So, this is about a group of kids who are in detention, and they're actually learning magic. So, do you write fantasy? Or do you like read fantasy?
Yeah, I like reading fantasy and I daydream and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, fantasy, I found it really satisfying to write and really complicated because there's a lot of world building. It depends on the sort of fantasy, but if you're using magic or if you have other worlds, you have to sort of get things really straight. So although I don't plot out my stories in the fantasy writing case, I had to really think hard about setting, about magic, like what are the rules of that? Are there penalties if you use it wrong? There's a lot of things that I had to figure out. It was pretty complicated, but so fun. So fun. And that book so far is called Hither and I. But the title might change.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Summer, and my first question is, when did you start to have interest as an author?
I started really writing very young. I just love writing. And here's the thing I want to tell you guys, there are some writers among you. So I started writing when I was 7th grade, and I wrote lots of stories. So when I was 16, I took a contest in a magazine called 17 Magazine. And I wrote a contest, and I submitted, and I won, and I got pushed in the magazine. So it was super exciting, but what is more important is that when I was a kid, there weren't that many magazines that did that kind of thing, but now there are. So actually on my website, I think it's under the tips section, there's some links to magazines that publish kids' work. There's quite a few of them, and I know there's some more I've got to ask for. But they just, you can submit your stories, and I think they also take illustrations, and potentially you'll be published. So I I don't know, just wanted to throw that out there for anybody who's interested in writing. Good question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mason, and my question is, what's your favorite genre of books?
What's my favorite genre? I mean, I really like, I'll try anything. I love, I love writing fantasy. I like writing. I love kind of mystery novels. I love reading mysteries. They're just super fun, and they'll keep you up really late. So I usually try to put a mystery. I just, yesterday, I just had a new book published. It's nonfiction. It's a book, a writing book for young writers. Called Writer's First Aid Kit. So that's fun to write too. Like I like writing all across genres, and just exploring different kinds of writing. I don't really like to just tap myself in one sort of genre. Good question. One more question.
Well, let me get Caitlin.
How about two more?
Two more, okay, Caitlin for sure.
Okay. Do you ever read your own books?
Good. Gosh, I have to say, you guys really ask questions because there's a lot I haven't heard before. Here's what so, like I said, there's a lot of revision that goes on, which I think is great because that way I can really get my books to a point that I want to get to. So, what I find a little scary is when my books are published, when I read them after they're published, I'm always like, oh, I should have revised that, or I should have done that, because there's always something else that I would have liked to improve on. So sometimes I will read my books again, but it always feels a little nervous because there's always something else that I would have made a little bit better. Yeah, good question.
Alright, I'm going to have one of my remote students ask a question. Actually, let me see. I'm reading down them at the bottom right here. Mackenzie. Alright, Mackenzie and I have both of the girls ask questions, okay?
Okay.
Alright, who wants to go first? Let's have Mackenzie go first. Go ahead, Mackenzie. You want to ask, or you want me to ask a question for you? Mackenzie, you want to ask yourself, or do you want me to ask the question for you? I think she's going to ask. She wants me to ask. So her question was, do you have a favorite book?
Good question, Mackenzie. Let's see. I'm looking at my stack of books here. I don't have a favorite because they've all been really fun and really difficult to write in all the different ways. This one I have a soft spot for is called Hummingbird. And it's a modern version of the classic book, The Secret Garden. And I guess the reason why I feel attached to this one is that I love The Secret Garden. It's one of my favorite books. I don't know if you guys have ever read it. It's fantastic. So my editor asked me to write a modern retelling of it. I was so excited. So this book was really hard to write because I was so nervous. I wanted it to be at least partially live up to the classic, and I also wanted it to be my own and unique. So this one is I have a soft spot.
And Gretchen, you can unmute and ask your question if you want.
Okay. One of my questions was, how old were you when you wrote your first book? I was in my 30s. I can't remember exactly, and that was Olivia Kidney. So up until then, I've been writing a lot of short stories and got published in, literary journals. But it did take me a long time to get published, and that is pretty typical. So I don't know if you guys are thinking about being a writer. Writing is a fantastic career. You literally get to wake up in the morning, sit in your pajamas, and make up stories. Like, that's pretty fabulous. But it does sometimes take a while to get published, so I did lots of odd jobs. I was a waitress and a receptionist, and I worked in construction. I did all kinds of odd jobs while I was writing and submitting and waiting to be published, so it did take a while. Some people it takes shorter, some longer. It really depends, but yeah. So hey you guys, questions you've asked, and so excited that I got a chance to talk to you this morning. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you guys do lots of reading, and it sounds like we've got some writers in the group, so I hope you guys do some really, really great writing too.
All right, say goodbye, guys. Very good.
Thank you.
All right, first one. Hello,
Hello, I am Melissa. My question to you is, what was the favorite book as a kid?
Oh, so my favorite, I had a couple of them, but the two ones that I can remember best are A Wrinkle in Time and another book called Harriet the Spy, which is a great book, and it's about a kid in New York City. I grew up in New York City. A girl in New York City who wants to be a writer and spies on people, so it's a really good one. But I also love all the Roald Dahl books, like the BFG and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. They're great.
Okay,
I love my job. I get to wake up in the morning and make up stories. Like, that is the dream. So I feel very, very fortunate to do the thing that I'm doing and to get paid doing it. And actually, I don't know if anyone wants to be a writer, but one thing to know is it can take a while to get published. So I did a lot of other jobs before this. While I was writing and trying to get published, I was a dog groomer, I was a waitress, a receptionist, I did all kinds of things, and then I wrote on the side. So it did take me a while to get to the point where I could earn a living as a writer, but it's every day I'm satisfied with my job. It's difficult, but I love it.
Thank you.
Jacob, got the audio, okay?
Hi, my name is Audrey. What was your favorite subject in school?
Hi, Audrey. I loved writing. I always loved writing. So I would always, English was always so fun. They were always, if I had a great teacher who gave us lots of creative writing assignments, I was thrilled. That was my favorite. Thank you.
We'll go in order. And then Sophia, right? After.
Hello, my name is Jacob, and in the future, do you think that one of your books could turn into a movie?
Great question, Jacob. Actually, a couple of my books have been, it's called optioned for movies, which means that a movie producer or a television producer says, oh, I think we're going to try and make a series out of your book. So the two books that have been optioned, one of them is actually the first book I wrote called Olivia Kidney, and they're working on getting it into a streaming series. Ooh. And the other book is Otis Duda, which has also been optioned for animation. So that should be really fun. I hope to see it on TV someday.
Okay, well thank you.
Hello, this way.
Hello, my name is Max, and my question is, did you ever copy stories from other books or movies when you were a kid?
Great question, Max. Well, I think, this is what I think. When you're first learning how to write, I think it's okay to maybe, like if there's a writer who you really like, it's okay to maybe, you can imitate some of the things that they do just to figure, it's sort of like an exercise to figure out how they're doing what they're doing. But ultimately, the best, you have your own unique voice. You live a life that no one else has lived. You have stories that no one else has. So ultimately, you really want your stories, your characters, your world to come out of your own imagination. It can be influenced by other books and other writers you love, but really, people want to read about, they want your mind in there. They want your words. So, yeah, you can learn from other writers. So.
Hi, I'm Sophia.
Hi, Sophia.
And my question is, how long does it take to write a book?
Good question. It depends. So, like, I have a couple of series. Bigfoot and Littlefoot and Evergreen and the Fairy Tree. So these series, there are 5 books in the series. And they're shorter. So when I have a contract for a series like this, I know I have to write faster because if there are 5 books in a series, the publisher wants a schedule for when the books come out. So I have to work with their schedule. So for books like this, maybe takes 2 to 3 months for me to write them. I said a lot of it is time that I'm revising. But for regular books like middle grade books like Slob or Olivia Kidney, it's about a year. It takes about a year. Great question.
Why do you like writing?
Why do I like writing? Good question. Because I love reading. So, do you like reading? You do?
Kind of.
Yeah, there's nothing better than a really great book. And so that feeling of, when you're in this book's world and it feels so real and the characters feel so real and you just want to live in that world all the time. I love that feeling and I wanted to create that feeling for other people. And then for me, it's really fun to create a world that I get to live in for as long as I want. So that's what I was very inspired by reading.
Thank you. My remote kids. Evelyn, can you unmute, please? Unmute your mic.
Yes.
You can ask. Can you hear her or no, Miss
I
Potter?
can, yeah.
Okay, ask her a question, Evelyn.
How do you get the dog?
That one I didn't has something about my dog?
Yes.
Yes.
How did you get your dogs?
How did I get my dogs? Well, let me get.
I know you have multiple.
Well, there's another guy over here too. He's hanging out. We got our dogs in different ways. We got them from friends. But Hugo is named after the Bigfoot in Bigfoot and Littlefoot. I got him after. I got this Hugo after I wrote the book, but I have another book, and this is funny, a little trivia. I have this book called The Kneebone Boy, and every character in the book is named after one of my animals, so I've always had lots of dogs, and I tried to take the personality of my animals and to give it to the character, which is a fun thing for you guys to do too, is to maybe take a pet that you love and create a human character with some of their same basic personality types. It's a really fun exercise.
Thank you. We're gonna go in order.
Hello again. My question to you is, what was the favorite book you've made?
I can tell you what was my most fun book. I have a couple of them. There's two that come to mind. So, this book is called The Humming Room, and this is a modern retelling of the book The Secret Garden. Have you ever read that?
No.
It's a great, great old book, The Secret Garden, and it was one of my favorites as a kid, and my editor asked me to write a modern version of it. So I loved writing it based on one of my favorite classic books. The other book that's super fun to write, it's a series, it's called Otis Judy, and this is why it was so much fun to write, is when I wrote this, my son was 7 or 8, and he only read Captain Underpants. Like, he didn't want to read any other books, right? So I said, I'm going to write a book that he's going to want to read because it'll be funny. So I wrote this book about this kid who's like a Lego genius and has all these crazy adventures. And for my son's read aloud every night, I would read him the chapter that I'd written that day. And if he laughed at the funny parts, I'd keep him in. And if he didn't laugh, I'd take him out. And then, because there are all these Lego inventions in here, he built all the, there's many, but, and they were like crazy catapults and all kinds of fun things. So that one was really fun to write because I did it with my son.
Okay, thank you. Consider yourself unique compared to other authors?
I mean, I think it's a very good question. I think every author, if you're not copying someone, your work is going to be unique. If you're writing true to your imagination, true to your voice, you will absolutely be unique. So I think important for writers not to worry too much about like, oh, is this going to be interesting or unique? You're writing, from your heart, you're writing from your experience, you're writing from your imagination, and it will be unique. So yeah, I don't think I'm any more unique than any other writer.
Thank you. Okay. What is your favorite idea that you have put into a book?
Let me think. Well, I can tell you one of this was sort of fun. This is Piper Green and the Fairy Tree. So the idea for this came from some interesting things that happened. Because this is about a little girl who lives on a tiny island in Maine.
Any more questions?
And she has to go to school on a lobster boat. And this is really truly how kids on those islands would go to school. Their islands were so little, there were no schools on the island itself. So they would take boats, like you would take a school bus, they would take a school boat, except it was usually a boat that a fisherman owned, and they fished for lobsters there. And the fishermen would volunteer to take these kids to school every day on their boats. And I thought, oh, that's such an interesting way to go to school, is you're taking a boat across the ocean, and you might see seals in the morning leaping, and it would be such a cool way to have your experience, your day's experience. So that was really one of the most fun ideas that I worked with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello again. Would you ever think that you'd be an author?
I always wanted to be an author, yes. I always wanted to be an author. So, and here's something I wanted to tell you guys too, in case there are any writers in the group. The first thing I ever got published, I was 16 years old, and I entered a writing contest in a magazine called 17 Magazine, and I won, and it got published. When I was a kid, there weren't that many contests and things like that, but now there really are. So on my website, which is ellenpotter.com, there's a section that's tips for kids, and there are links to magazines that publish kids' work. So if there are any writers, if you're a writer and you maybe want to try and get published, those magazines are a really good way to do it. You submit your work and they tell you how to do it. All the rules about it, and maybe you get published, which is really fun. That's a good question. I started writing when I was 7, and I started writing stories then. And like I said, I grew up in New York City, and I always wanted a horse. So that wasn't going to happen in New York City. So I would write all these stories about this horse. And that's the other great thing about writing, is when you really are engaging your imagination, it kind of feels real. So it almost felt like I owned this horse. So that was really one of the first stories that I wrote were about this horse that I wanted.
Thank you.
What do you say you do that other writers don't do?
You guys, I must say, the other class too, you guys have some really, really good questions. Really good. What I do that other writers don't do. Well, one thing that I do when I write, now not every writer works this way, but it works for me. I don't plot out my stories ahead of time. So what I do is I try and get to know my main characters really well, and then I try and let them lead me through the story. So I might set up an obstacle for those characters, but I try and kind of follow behind my characters to see what will happen. And when I write like that, I'm not giving things away. My readers will be surprised, in Slob, the person who's actually taking the cookies, I didn't know who it was. I didn't know I didn't know the answer to the mystery until I was almost at the point where it had to be solved. And then when we find out who it is, it's surprising for my readers because I didn't know, so I'm not giving anything away as I'm working toward the mystery. So I do try and write like that so that it's more fun and surprising.
Can you tell the kids a struggle that you faced as a kid and how you overcame it?
The struggle I faced as a kid. I'll tell you. And and it's something, and this is something that's very linked with writing too. My brothers, especially my older brother, was very smart, really smart. Like today, he's actually a nuclear physicist for the government. He's smart like that. So when I grew up, I felt like I wasn't that smart. I always felt like my grades weren't as good as his, and I just, so when I wrote, and he is, you know, until recently, it sort of made me feel like, oh, am I smart enough to be a writer? I don't know if I am, I don't know if I am. But this is what I found out, and I think this goes for everything. It's not really how talented you are, how smart you are if you're into sports, and how, like, you know, fast you are, or strong you are, whatever it is. That's really not the most important thing. The most important thing is persistence. Because I know writers who are brilliant, but they've never been able to publish anything because they've given up. When it got hard, they gave up. The most important quality that you can have in whatever you do is not to give up, is to just keep going. If it's something you love to do and feel strongly about, do not get discouraged. There's always obstacles. There are always things, there are always times when you feel like, you know, you're not getting anywhere, or you feel like I'm not smart enough or good enough. You just keep going, and persistence is the most important quality that I've developed in my life, and I think it goes for anything.